107 days ago, I sat in a completely different spot to this, and I made myself look a twat with tinfoil on my head for a thumbnail, but I made some predictions about what lenses I thought we might see from Sony in the not too distant future based off what Tamron have done with their lenses. Now, if you haven't seen that video and you want to go and check it out, it's up here now. Long and short of it is that given that Tamron have gone for some very peculiar choices in focal lengths and apertures of their recent Sony E-mount lenses, coupled with the fact that Sony owns 12% of Tamron and is the second biggest shareholder in the company, and that Tamron's lenses for the Sony E-mount are questionable, with their zoom lenses having rather unorthodox focal lengths and their 3 prime lenses all being f2.8, despite the fact that the lens barrel size is more than sufficient to house a lens at least a stop brighter than that. And the only conclusion that I could come up with was that Sony is pulling some strings with Tamron to basically make sure that they don't have any lenses that cross over and go up against each other, and that they're trying to play the field as much as possible, so that Sony have the really flagship high-end lenses, they have a more mid-tier lens, and then Tamron have cheaper alternatives that don't cross paths with anything. Hence the 35 f2.8 being a 2.8, so it didn't clash with the 1.8 that Sony have only recently released. The 24 f2.8 arguably not being a 2 or a 1.8, so that it didn't get too close to the 24-14 G Master. But 20mm focal length, Sony has nothing that comes close to that. So I predicted the only reason that Tamron went with the 2.8 for their 20mm is that they knew Sony were coming out with the 20mm f1.8 of their own. And 107 days later, I'm proven right. Which logically only means one thing. I must be God. It's a joke, I know I'm not really God. Haven't got the beard for it. Now, before we get on to discussing the new lens, I know some of you are going to have some burning questions already regarding the dramatic change in look to my videos. So I'm going to cover those quickly. If you're not interested in any of that and you want to get straight onto the lens, jump up to this point now. Now, the different look to this video. Yes, it's a completely different room to where I've been shooting my videos recently, but if you've been with the channel long enough, you might recognize that this is actually my original room that I used to shoot my videos in. I used to shoot in this room, which is my bedroom at my parents' house. Then I moved in with my girlfriend and I was shooting the videos at that house. Now, we're in the process of buying a house together that is going to have a separate room for me to make into a studio to shoot my videos. Now, unfortunately, there's been some issues further up the chain with this house buying, so we were supposed to be moving in last week, and now we've been delayed quite drastically. But unfortunately, we'd already handed the notice into the house that we were renting, so we've had to move out of that. So for the short-term foreseeable, we're back at my parents' house, so this is a temporary look. Second question, I know some of you are going to be asking, Dave, I couldn't give a rat's about a Sony lens or where you're shooting. I'm only here for the dog. Where is he? He's never far away. You can't stay here if you're going to keep licking. I'll get him back at the end. But now, on to the lens. All in all, it looks pretty impressive. From what I've seen of people who've managed to get a pre-production copy, it seems to be a really good performing lens, kind of on par with what you would expect from a Sony G-series lens. It seems ridiculously light, less than 400 grams, really small and compact as well, so ideal for a travel lens. The focus selector switch and the AF button are pretty standard on Sony lenses now. However, the declickable aperture ring was a surprise I wasn't expecting. That's something found on the 24 G Master lens. I didn't think it would be found on a G series lens. Image quality seems pretty good and the autofocus seems really fast as well, so it's definitely a solid performing lens for a 20mm focal length. My big issue with this lens, I say big issue, The only negative of this lens really for me so far is the price. It's currently $900 US, or about £950 UK. Now that's not to say that it's not going to be worth that amount of money, but it's just that I was hoping for maybe something a little bit cheaper. I personally would be happier with a more budget-friendly option without a declickable aperture ring and a few £100 shaved off the price, and then kind of put a G Master version of this lens at f1.4 for those that really want to spend a load of money on a lens. Although in all honesty for me, the price is irrelevant because I've no intention of buying the 20mm f1.8 because I already have a lens similar to it that fulfills that particular role, which is my mystery lens. That's right there. Where the Sony release now presents me a conundrum is I was most of the way through the review video of the mystery lens, now they've announced this. So I probably need to go back and refilm the mystery lens video to include the Sony 20mm as a comparison. Ugh. Really, Sony? You couldn't wait like a week longer? Or 3 weeks earlier? Come on. Although now the question is, if I was right on the prediction of the 20mm f1.8, am I going to be right on the other predictions as well? Namely, a 24mm f1.8 that sits in between this and the 35 1.8 honestly now seems less likely. If they've made this a G series lens with almost the build quality of a G Master lens, then a 24 1.8 kind of seems a bit irrelevant and a bit too close to a 24-1.4 G Master. But the bigger prediction that I'm hoping is correct is that Sony are gonna expand this more mid-tier lineup further. So now they've gone wider than 35mm, they're gonna go longer than the 85mm with 135mm f2.2 as a more budget version to the 1.8 G Master lens. Fingers crossed. But what do you guys make of the 20mm f1.8 announcement? Have you pre-ordered yours yet? And can anyone guess what the mystery lens is? Leave your thoughts and comments in the box down below. While you're down there, if you haven't already, please consider hitting the subscribe button. And there is also a link to my Patreon account and merch store as well. Thank you so much for stopping by, and hopefully I will see you in the next video.